Well, hello, my friends. We meet again. It has been a while. Where should we begin? Today, we're going to be talking about the solo section of Metallica's classic, the epic Creeping Death. But we're actually not going to be talking about what Kirk Hammett is playing here. Instead, we're going to be talking about what these two gentlemen, James and Cliff, are playing underneath of what Kirk Hammett is playing. And this all goes back to a video I made a while ago about the best under solo riffs in metal. What I consider to be one of the most underappreciated aspects of a metal song, right? It's what you play underneath the solo. The under solo riff, essentially, right? Creeping Death does something very, very unique that I don't think I've really heard before or since. So that's what we're going to be talking about today, the under solo section of Creeping Death. Make sure you like the video. It helps out more than I think you think it does. It really, really helps out the channel, as well as consider subscribing. I also have a YouTube membership program if you want to support me. No worries if you don't. I also live stream Fridays. Come hang out. That's enough self-shilling. Let's get into it here, boys. I'm playing my 1983 made in Japan BC Rich Mockingbird in hot pink, painted that back of the neck. So close to being perfectly for Ride the Lightning, but what can you do? And if you're wondering why I have tape on the knobs, I'm currently recording some rhythm tracks with this guitar, and I want the volume on 10 always, right? So Creeping Death is a song about, right, the Pharaoh of Egypt and the Hebrew slaves and Moses setting them free. To make it short, right? We've all seen that DreamWorks movie from what, 1999 or 2000 was it? Great movie, but you know, the song is essentially telling a story about that. And during the solo of the song, it also tells a story. The solo of this song has always felt very epic and like a journey to me, right? It feels kind of extraordinary. It's one of Metallica's best solo sections ever, in my opinion. And there's a really, really specific reason for that. During the solo of Creeping Death, the band essentially just plays a verse, pre-chorus, and chorus section underneath the solo. It's also a rather long solo, probably longer than you would hear a lot of times nowadays, but you know, it was the mid-80s, you know, why not at this point, right? But it always has felt like just such a long and epic and a solo that takes you on a journey. And this is why, right? The band underneath of Kirk's solo plays the verse riff, post-chorus riff, and the chorus riff. And so underneath of the solo, you essentially have a repeat of like the main sections of the songs. Thus, as the song changes, the solo goes with it, and it feels very epic and like a journey. Like it feels you're taking it somewhere. It feels like the solo is moving the song forward, but it's really just going through the rest of the track. Now, right, Creeping Death, right? You all know the main riff. And so that's the first riff you hear once the solo plays. After that cool little anacrusis of the solo beginning over this riff, right? Right? Very, very cool. The solo begins halfway through that bar. I'll play you the clip there. And this is also the same way that they move into the first verse as well. So they start the verse with the singing the same way that they start the solo, right? Except, of course, the solo has that cool anacrusis. But it's the exact same way to start it as well. Very, very interesting. But yeah, the first riff that you hear is this, which is just like the verse riff or like the intro riff, whatever you want to call it, right? But Metallica does something really cool here. They actually change up that riff a little bit. So you have sort of like a mix here, right? You have a verse riff that's also slightly changed, so. Something like that, right? And what's very, very cool about that is it adds an extra pedal note, an extra chord tone underneath it, right? It's all sort of based on E, right? But when it briefly moves up in the one part in the verse riff that's played into the solo, then you get A, right? And so that's very cool as it gives the solo an extra chord to solo upon, right? If you're simply playing E for that whole verse, it sort of runs out of steam. It doesn't have that much melodic interest. So very, very cool that they decided to do that when they were sort of essentially repeating the verse, right? Yo, all right. Editing Varvis here. Sorry, I forgot to mention this when I was doing the video originally, but most bands, they would take the modified verse riff that you hear, and that would just be the solo riff, right? They would just simply leave that, and that's what the solo would be played over top of it for the entire time. That makes this solo section so goddamn awesome and cool and feel like such an epic journey. Then they move on to this riff, right, which is of course the pre-chorus riff. They also use it different places, but you know. Very cool riff. I love the drumming under that part too. Essentially, it's just moving through the parts of the song, right? And then it gets like the cool, absolutely sick Phrygian feel of the chorus, right? One of my favorite choruses of all time. It just feels so epic. I love how it moves from like this E up to here. Just so epic. And I love that Phrygian feel of like the power chord on the 8 here. And so yeah, the solo continues to be played over top of that as well. Normally, we're used to hearing vocals over all of these sections here. So essentially what they're doing is just replacing the storytelling element of the vocals with a guitar solo, right? Because after the guitar solo ends, we go back into what's the actual bridge, right? You can almost view the guitar solo as not really being a bridge, but just sort of like a repeat of sort of like the verse, pre-chorus, chorus structure of this song. Afterwards, then it moves on into the cool bridge section, right? With the... Very, very cool riff, and it's very, very heavy too, so... I just think it's just so interesting. I've never heard it before, and I don't know why I never really noticed it either, that the Creeping Death solo is just like a repeat of the verse, pre-chorus, and chorus. And in doing so, it takes you to places that feel familiar, but adds a new element to it, of course, right? The guitar solo. And this is, of course, added to the fact that Kirk's guitar solo here is just undeniably awesome and sick. Especially love how when it gets like the more open chord section, right, the chorus. I love how it changes tone and you get like, I think it's like a harmony or like a doubled part to it. Very, very, very cool. And something that I don't really think I've heard before or ever since, really, is just how interesting and unique that solo section is, simply by the fact that they're not really doing anything new and unique, right? The only new part they add to the song is this, right? Yeah, very, very cool. I was just sort of skimming through Metallica's catalog here, trying to notice another song which does sort of the same thing. And another example of this reusing verses and pre-choruses for solo section would actually be the song The Unforgiven. Which coincidentally is another one of my favorite all-time Metallica solo sections, probably likely for this exact same reason. It takes you on a journey going through the different sections of the song that you've already sort of heard. Yeah, another really, really good example of this, which by the way, I have a 2-hour-long video on all 3 Unforgiven songs where I go through them in absolutely incredible, in-depth, nerdy detail, so go check that one out. So next time you are recording or writing music, maybe keep this in mind when you're looking for a solo section, right? Instead of coming up with a brand new solo riff, brand new under solo riff, maybe just try repeating your verse, pre-chorus, and chorus sections, or maybe the intro, verse, and chorus, or maybe some permutation of all those different things, and really make your guitar solo feel like it's taking the listeners on a journey, the way that Creeping Death does. So, let me know if you guys have noticed this before. I just noticed this and I just wanted to make a video explaining it. And I just thought it was just so interesting and so cool. Metallica, man. You know, you could listen to the music for years and years and discover something new every day. Have any other bands done this before that you know of? Let me know down in the comments, boys. Always happy to hear it. Thank you very much for watching. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And yeah, cheers, boys. Have a great rest of your day.